Hi, my name is Peter Anderson. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the Boston area. I have owned this practice, Anderson Family Therapy, for over 10 years now, and I'm here to answer some questions that my friend Herman is going to ask me.
The first question is, how can a couple best continue after experiencing a traumatic event?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. In fact, right now it coincides with the training that I'm taking right at the Trauma Institute run by Bessel van der Kolk. And he's done pretty extensive training with trauma. And trauma is that's one of those things that the body is going to keep the score of the traumatic event. In other words, his book, The Body Keeps Score, talks a lot about that. Trauma doesn't always affect the brain the way that we think it does. It actually affects more of our bodies. Of course, the body and the brain are interconnected, but our body is very reactive. Our body often will shut down. It'll go in flight mode or fight mode or freeze, shutdown mode, or even fawning. And so when our body is doing that from a traumatic event, it's not an intimacy mode. Fawning is not necessarily intimacy, and it's not related to what we're talking about here. But when a couple has experienced that, their bodies are very reactive. And it's not in a place where they are trusting or calm, because the parasympathetic nervous system, the thing that calms us down, really isn't kicking in. And so you have to understand, first of all, what is going on with your body as a couple. So I would really encourage you to go get a trauma specialist, trauma therapist, so that you can start integrating back with your bodies again. Because again, that's where a lot of fighting is going to occur. A lot of flooding, reactive behavior, especially after something like a death or something like losing your home, losing a child. You know, any of those things are going to really affect your body, and you're often going to be in reactive mode. So what you want to do, you want to get some help. Try to outside help, I would say, for both of you. And then I would actually refrain from couples counseling for about a month until you're pretty good at that, because the narrative is going to take a while on what you want to say with your partner. Again, with trauma, it takes a while to get to the verbal part of our brains. But once you're able to kind of communicate a little bit more effectively, that's when you want to start talking to your partner again. So that's going to be my advice for anybody that's gone through a traumatic event.
So, the next question is, how can I speak with my military partner and maintain our connection after they've come back from deployment and seem disconnected?
Wow, that's a great question. And I've seen that a few times before. I mean, going back on the trauma question earlier, the first thing that you want to do is to see if your military partner does have access to a therapist or psychiatrist. You want to check in with that. Unfortunately, our veterans have not been treated very well for a very long time. Recently, things have changed somewhat, especially the VA hospitals. And so if your partner is already starting to really shut down, they're starting to disassociate, that is a trauma response that is not going to trigger the communicative part of your partner's brain. And so what you're wanting to do in that moment is try to make sure that they have some type of connection outside the family. Now, as far as what you can do as a partner, what can I do as a partner? You want to give space, and you want to also give some order. What you don't want to do is just be so passive and walk on so many eggshells, because if you do that, it's not like your partner's all of a sudden, especially if they're just got home from overseas, that's not necessarily going to cause them to calm down. If anything, having a lot of structure, believe it or not, would be helpful, while you're also helping them or making sure that they're navigating for their own mental health. And so you don't have to necessarily just make sure that everything is picture perfect. Communicate with them, give them structure. They actually will be okay with that, especially in the military. In fact, I remember counseling a few people who were in the military. They often would get irritated or upset that their partner never really wanted to tell them their own needs and they would be like, okay, just give it to me. And that's okay. That's okay. But you want to do it only when you're in a place where you're not being critical or defensive, just where it makes sense and where it's very clear. But, again, communication is key, and making sure that, again, that they have somebody that they're connected with. And it's that kind of fine line that I would say is the best advice that I would give for you right now.
The next question is, can we get remarried after already having gotten divorced from each other once?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's 100% fine. I've seen it actually, and I'm laughing mainly because I believe it's a beautiful thing. To be honest with you, I mean, I could think of couples where they divorced. They worked on some of their own stuff, and they realized, because here's the thing: after a divorce, even if it's a horrific divorce, so this is just true according. You have horrific divorces where you should never get back with that person. That's like where abuse is, like where there's multiple affairs and there's no, no desire on their part to change, stuff like that. You want to, those are bad divorces. But the quote, I'm not going to say good divorces, that wouldn't work here, but divorces where it's like they really both did have a lot of their own issues and they were not willing to work on those issues for themselves. And yes, they got divorced, but those couples, when they get better and better and they start seeing, oh my gosh, I made a lot of mistakes here. And I really made a lot of mistakes here. I was very critical. Goodness, I was extremely defensive. I gave her such a hard time for everything. Man, I gave him I was so critical when it came to our kids, and I never gave him an inch. And like they start to kind of work on themselves, and all of a sudden they meet again. It's like, you know what? I was hard on you. I was hard on you, and I love you, and I love you. They get married, and gosh, that's a great story. I mean, if that is your story, that's beautiful. I can't say anything but I'm proud of you in that. I think that's cool. So, well, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you like this material, please click on the link below. We have courses that are also available online, and we hope to see you again next time. Thanks for coming.
Start your journey to a deeper connection today. Engaging courses, insightful blogs, and resources await to enrich your relationships. Visit AndersonFamTherapy.com now.